Social media or Instagram content strategy is not the same thing as best practices. Like when I ask you what your content strategy is, I'm not asking you about your content themes, your best times to post, your hashtags, or any of that stuff. So, what is actual content strategy? Let's talk about it. What's up? It's David K, aka Threadability, talking all things social media and Instagram to help you achieve your goals with your social media platforms. If you type in anything like Instagram growth tips or just tips for Instagram into YouTube or Google, you're met with a lot of titles that are like Instagram growth strategy or content planning strategy or how to be more effective on Instagram and all those kinds of titles. And while these are all strategies, I see them more as developing best practices or sub-strategies that support your overall foundational social media strategy, which should also support your overall goal on your platforms. Does that make sense? Okay, we're gonna talk through it. So in the simplest words that I can think of that make sense in my head, and the way that I use it on my platform as well as the platforms of clients that I work with, is an all-encompassing plan that includes the content, your social media presence, and your branding that supports the goal of your platform and your business for how you choose to use it. So in other words, what I'm saying is that it was very clear to us why we chose certain pieces of content, why we branded ourselves in a certain way, why we operated on social media in the specific way that we do, and it was because we were clear on our goal and developed a strategy to support that. In my mind, it goes as far as steps is defining your goal, then creating content strategy that actually supports that goal, then moving on to actually implementing those best practices to support your strategy and your overall goal, and finishing with testing and reviewing and adjusting. So in my eyes, the content strategy piece is actually creating and developing content that supports your why or your vision of what you want to be doing on your platform. Knowing exactly what you want to be doing with your platform gives you a better idea of what kind of content is going to support that and allows you to move into the implementation phase faster. In turn, understanding those two previous steps also makes it easier to put those best practices into place, like posting at the best times, finding the right hashtags, and doing everything else to support your overall content strategy. My key with those best practices, and we'll talk about a little bit later in this video, is that those are not gonna make or break your platform. It's the actual strategy that's supporting your goal and why you're creating the content in the first place that will. Make sure you like and subscribe now to this channel, because next week I'm going to be going through a specific example of how I would build content strategy with an example platform. So if you're interested in that, stick around. This is where you need to start if you want to build a real Instagram or social media content strategy. You need to develop the actual goal of your platform, and this goes for both influencers and businesses. Why? Because the content strategy you develop is going to be supporting this goal all the way through, from every piece of content you create on a consistent basis. Now, my other piece of advice is that the goal cannot just be to grow followers, because that doesn't give your content any direction, which means you can't really develop a strategy that just supports a goal of growing, right? What content would that be? Creating your goal around a vanity metric doesn't indicate how successful you are with your business or your platform or what you're actually trying to do with it. So I challenge you to think bigger than that. If you're an influencer, think about what a larger platform would help you do. Are you trying to educate, entertain, mobilize your community, or even start a brand? As a business, your goals might be a little bit more clear. You want to obviously increase sales, create conversions, but then you're also looking to build community and true fans around your brand and products. In any case, it's bigger than likes and follows, and if you can get clear on that goal, then we can figure out what content is going to support that in our strategy. All right, let's do a quick example. Again, next week I'm gonna be doing a more in-depth one, but I wanna do this one because I feel like I'm just talking in like definitions and terms right now. All right, so let's say I created a fashion and style Instagram account, and now I'm trying to determine what my goal with that platform is. And we'll take this from an influencer and content creator sort of perspective. I gave it some thought, and my goal is to deliver relevant information to my audience about how to develop personal, unique style without having having to buy new pieces constantly. So basically, I want to tell people how to dress in a style that they're excited about, how to find their own style without having to spend extra cash. Boom, that is the overall goal of my platform. So now, what is the content strategy? What content am I going to be developing that actually supports this goal? I first start to think that there's an education piece here, right? Like I can teach people how to shop smart, how to shop their own closet, how to shop vintage so they don't have to spend that extra cash. So I know that immediately a piece of my content is going to be focused on education to establish my expertise and deliver on this goal. Then my mind also heads to how-tos because I want to show people how to repurpose clothing they already have or repurpose and style clothing in a new way from their closet. So I'm immediately thinking reels, videos that establish sort of an interactive element where people can actually learn and then copy that same strategy or that same how-to. Again, this supports my goal of helping my audience save money while developing their style. Then I start to look at community-oriented content where I may research fast fashion or find other brands and companies that are helping my same target audience do the same thing by saving money and still looking good. I can support these other brands, get into a community with them, and then again, I'm supporting that overall goal I have of helping my audience figure out how to do this for themselves. And there you go, I suddenly have the makings of an actual content strategy. I know what pieces of content will help support my goal, and I can move into actually creating them and then figuring out posting frequency, what type of content is actually going to help my audience get familiar with my content and resonate with it, and then figure out hashtags that will also help expose my audience to my content. But those are all supporting my strategy, right? The defining point of developing this kind of strategy is that I can be confident in each piece of content that I post because I know it supports my goal. And on top of that, I can also track progress, as in how many people have I helped actually save money, or you can develop your own sort of measuring metrics to see if this strategy is working and if it's supporting your goal. Now, a big part of developing this kind of strategy and figuring out if your content is going to work, even in that example that we just talked about, is knowing exactly who you're targeting with that content and with your goal even. And sure, it gets a little blurrier for influencers because at first you're just trying to get people to like you, you're trying to grow your brand, but you're not off the hook. If you're trying to create content that supports your overall goal, then you need to know who you're actually speaking to with that content. And that also means getting specific with that targeting. Like in the example we just talked about, I'm not just talking to guys who are 25 and over. I'm talking to guys who maybe do not have the financial freedom to go spend hundreds of dollars on made-to-measure suits and shoes, so they need this sort of education or they need this sort of help. Maybe they're the main provider in their family and so they're not spending all their money on themselves. Or they're a college student who's not completely financially independent, so they have to be smart with how they spend on their style. You can get really deep into this and it'll guide your content even further to support your goal. Part of developing that content strategy, like we just talked about, is also understanding who you're talking to, because it sets the tone of your content, it sets the style of your content, and it'll again guide you in a more complete way. And remember, this is all happening before you even click post on the first piece of content that goes up on your feed. I know I referenced this a few times already through this video, but I want to make sure it's clear. So first, these best practices like engaging with other people's posts, finding the right hashtags, engaging in other sort of growth practices are not your actual content strategy. I define these as the best practices that support that content strategy, that are supporting the content you're putting out to accomplish and achieve the goal that you set out with in your platform. The reason I refer to these as best practices is because they're not unique to your platform. Everybody has access to these, everybody is using these. So there's not a best practice that is specific here to your niche in that sense. These are more like the things that we've all agreed on are good practices, or like I said, best practices to continuously employ on your platforms if you're taking it seriously. Now, on the other hand, your personal specific content strategy that supports your personal specific goal is something that nobody else can really use on their platforms. It's sort of like that why, how, what circle. So the why is your overall reason for being on the platform and your main platform goal. The how is the content that you are going to create to deliver that and is part of that specific content strategy. And your what is the best practices in this case, because that's what you're doing on a daily basis to implement your strategy, right? So your best practices here are not going to make or break your goals. Your definition of your actual how and your why is what's going to do that for you. Step back and review your content strategy, regardless of if you're an influencer or a business, and actually step back and review your overall goal for your platform. If it feels like you're just posting content without any real purpose, it might be because you're missing your platform goal or your content strategy to support that goal. Developing this kind of solid foundation actually keeps you grounded in your content and makes it a lot easier to stay consistent with your posting because you know exactly what you should be doing to reach your goal. If you're struggling with developing your platform goal or your content strategy, message me on Instagram so we can discuss how to get you to a place of clarity and confidence. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you got value out of it. And remember, next week we're gonna go in an in-depth example, so make sure you stick around for that. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.